I'm not sure why you're listening. I'm not sure why you're listening this time. I'm not even sure why I went ahead and chose to speak about this topic. A year ago, when I was invited to be part of a project on uncertainty before the loss of people that we love, I was hesitant. It was going to open some wounds that I was not ready to deal with. And perhaps spending time in the Word, that saved my faith from falling into the abyss of uncertainty. So, when I have to deal with uncertainty and death, for me it's more than just a topic of discussion, something of interest, or something that we can debate. It has been a long journey, a journey that I have struggled, and many experiences have forged where I am right now. When I began my ministry, I was ready to take over the world, to share hope to others. But then I had to be before this couple who wanted me to pray for the little one who had been born before it was expected. And as we prayed, we were certain that the Lord was doing something. She was recovering. And after several months, they gave her a name, Milagros, miracle. But Milagros did not survive. And that hot afternoon, when her father was before that damned coffin, little one, the uncle, with good intentions, he came to explain how perhaps she would have taken the wrong choices in life. The father blasted. It was like a mushroom cloud melting everyone around him. And the worst part is that I wanted to say the same things, the same blasphemies that he was uttering through his mouth. My faith was having a meltdown inside my heart as the one that grieving father was having before everybody in that place. I kept trying to build up my faith, reading the Bible, listening to other preachers, trying to cope, listening to inspiring music that could perhaps help me. But still, I had to tuck inside a box somehow those doubts, those questions, and try to have some answers, perhaps from theology, perhaps from discussions on the state of the dead, discussions on theodicy, and some of the arguments that people make to try to justify God or somehow get him out of the hook, out of the things that we cannot understand, when there are times when prayers are not answered in the way that we expect. I was praying not just for the others. I was in a struggle for myself. And when we listen to the voices in the Bible, we realize that not everybody had the faith of those who were in Hebrews 11. We see many of them struggling. Even Jacob, he was angry. He was upset when his daughter was raped, when his son was killed. He did not want anybody to comfort him. How about Naomi? Naomi wanted her name to be changed to Mara. Bitter. Huh? How about the other prophets? We can see them in Psalms. Some of them are utterly out of despair. And when we listen to the voices of those so-called small prophets, we have a different picture, not so inspiring as we expect, not the ones that are perhaps in verses that are not in the stained glasses or that are popular today when we want a gospel that it's out of attraction, prosperity, superpower, that we can proclaim, that we can declare that somehow things are going to happen. But no, we have a different picture when we listen to those voices and when we take the time to explore the experiences of others. Instead of trying to make feel uncomfortable those who doubt, instead of judging those who snap, those who even blaspheme, we should listen. We should listen. Listen to them and listen to the word, because we'll be surprised. We will be surprised how vulnerable are the biblical writers over their struggles, over their pain, over how they were dealing in times of uncertainty. Instead of being paternal or pontifical, we should try to understand where they're coming from and where their journey is heading them. And our community, instead of being judgmental, should be caring, should be loving, should be understanding. And if we can be proud, if you will, of the friends of Job, is that at the beginning they were silent. And many times silence is the best path in the midst of pain. So when we listen to the voices of those prophets, we should perhaps go to the book of Habakkuk. He's among the so-called 12 prophets or minor prophets. And we can see that he had a different take than the ones that we have in these prosperity preachers, in these that promise that everything is going to be fine. Don't worry. You know, I have been through the same experience. Careful with that. Habakkuk doesn't begin his book with great promises. Actually, we don't see promises in his book, basically. Habakkuk begins bickering about his situation. He's upset. He will say in Habakkuk 1:2, "O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear?" He adds, "Or cry violence, and you will not save." Habakkuk was really upset. He epitomizes the feelings of bewilderment as we face evil. Those who have experienced fatalities and destruction can relate to Habakkuk. They can feel the intensity of the fire that was burning in his heart, as I was in that afternoon at that cemetery before that family. I have seen the faces burned by hopelessness, the sense of disillusionment experienced by the prophets. We can see it daily today. The bottomless eyes of children in Congo. When I listen to the voices of those who have suffered in Syria, how about those men working hard, struggling in Port-au-Prince? Those are voices that we should listen today. And many places where there's economic, political, and social ills and injustices, they many times melt away the hope that most people. The lives of millions contrast with the superficiality of the wealth and health gospel that we listen in many countries in the West. The book of Habakkuk is not suited for prosperity preachers. No, the harsh reality of the prophet, the one that he was facing, was compatible with the pains of many today and incompatible with the transactional gospel that we see among many popular preachers. Heaven did not send him to preach an adrenaline-filled sermon about just go ahead. There's no problem. Don't worry. It's going to be fine. No, Habakkuk was open and vulnerable, and he answered in a way that was perhaps unexpected to many of us. The Lord tells him and explains him that if things are bad, they're going to get worse. What? Say what? Yes. If it's bad, and it's going to get worse. This is what the Lord tells Habakkuk. Actually, he explains in detail how the Babylonians are going to come, hunt them down, catch them like a fisherman catches fish, and then they will celebrate the net. Lord, so you're meaning that Marduk is going to get the glory? The wrong God is going to get the praise? Because that's how they understood when a nation was able to defeat another nation. It was a God defeating the other God. And Habakkuk is upset. He is even in a worse situation than before. He's enraged. He calls out to God, and he stands up and he tells him with his fist to the air, I will not go down until you explain to me how this is taking place. You can see the desperation of knowing that many of his loved ones will perish. This is not a theoretical scenario. This is a Holocaust scenario. This is a scenario of pain, of loss, of genocide. This was the experience that Habakkuk is presenting. And that's why in the 2nd chapter, verse 1, he explains, I will take my stand and my watch post and station myself on the tower and look out to see what he will say to me. And he adds, and what I will answer concerning my complaint. He's having a complaint with God, a covenantal complaint with God, a covenant lawsuit. This second plea before the Lord climaxes the tension of the book. This is the highest point in the book. The nation was going to experience the worst exile, the worst situation that they had ever experienced. The graphic description explained by God in chapter 1 were gruesome, and now in chapter 2 is worst. There are no promises of delivery. There's no angel in the night who's coming. There are no plagues who are trying to stop the ones who are coming against them. There's no cloud. No. Only utter destruction. Habakkuk was distressed, and he had plenty of reasons to be distressed. He lifts his voice against heaven, trying to find a space in the heavenly courts, trying to find vindication, and he appeals to the covenantal promises. Lord, you have promised this in the past. You did this in the wilderness. Habakkuk warns the Lord about his obligations with his people. In times of mourning, as the gloom of loss is over us, there is a place for this kind of exchange with God. No, we should not stop those who are snapping back from talking back against God. No, let them speak. The Lord wants to listen to them. And we should not just try to quiet them down. The Lord didn't do it with Habakkuk. No. You should listen and inquire. You should have that space to have that relationship that is honest with heaven. If God allowed humans to question Him, why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't you allow others to also question heaven? A lesson from Habakkuk that we should learn: to listen to those who are in grief, those who are beyond comfort. The person you're supporting doesn't always need a theological argument, no, or a psychological evaluation. No. Don't try to just justify God and to make Him look good. Well, you shouldn't say that. There's a large body of literature that tries to justify the justice of God. Theodicy. Somehow to find an explanation on why. And then there's the anti-theodicy, when we are so angry that we just cannot find an explanation. Protest theodicy. Angry, upset, unable to understand why these things have happened. Habakkuk asks the questions that many believers fear to pronounce. But we are in the midst of pain, and millions today are making the same questions. The prophet is not desperate because he does not receive the expected answers. Habakkuk's voice resonates with many of us who live in a world of uncertainty. In his poem, Habakkuk changes the language to resolution. The tone has changed if we keep reading the book. From outrage in his first confession to one of inquiry. The carefully chosen verbs and images of speech make this second confession, in this second chapter, shock the reader with forthrightness. Also, he inspires us to trust the accessibility of the Almighty. Those of you who support those who are in loss in time of need can have the assurance that that level of honesty make us to be closer to God. The only trace of hope that we can find here is in chapter 2, verse 4. When God assures that the righteous shall live by faith. This is not Paul. This is not a New Testament verse. This is an Old Testament verse that flies in the face of those who think that the Old Covenant, the Old Testament, is just about the law, it's dry, and so on. No. The righteous shall live by faith. Some have assumed that Paul is the only one who assures about faith as a source of hope. Nevertheless, other than this brief glimpse of certainty, there are no oracles of promises here in Habakkuk. The absence of promises and the degree of destruction that was foretold in Habakkuk drills inside the soul of the prophet and really shakes the future of many. This is what prompts the third confession that we find in Habakkuk in chapter 3. And we see in Habakkuk 3:16, I hear and my body trembles. My lips quiver at the sound. Rottenness enters into my bones. My legs tremble beneath me. Habakkuk is in good company with Jeremiah and others that uttered similar words. However, note the equanimity in his voice in verse 16. Yet I will quietly wait for the day of trouble to come upon people who invade us. There are many promises in the Bible about future rewards, restoration, and even prosperity that have blessed people experiencing sorrow and affliction. Nonetheless, others are almost offended by these cheerful passages. Yes, they feel mocked and not validated or understood. The words of Habakkuk resonate with those in the valley of uncertainty. These are the verses that have impressed me in the times of uncertainty. Passages of a time of silence from divine promises. Periods of waiting when no lights seem visible. Habakkuk, he takes a catalog of the basic elements of sustenance in his agrarian society. Come with me to chapter 3, verse 17. He states, "Though the fig tree shall not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, the produce of the olive fail, and the fields yield no food. The flock be cut off from fold, and there be no herd in the stalls." He goes on to the specific livelihood of his audience. It will be like speaking today about the supermarkets and the gas stations and the places that we expect to find what we need, and having no Wi-Fi for many. But now he states that even if he can still trust in the Lord, even if he doesn't receive what he has expected. Come with me and listen to Daniel 3:17 and 18. Our God, those are the three brave Hebrew men. Our God whom we serve is able to deliver us, but if not, they will remain faithful. So perhaps they had heard the words of Habakkuk, even if. Habakkuk had used the word salvation in a negative way at the beginning of his book. But now, in the fourth time that he uses the word, Habakkuk gives evidence of hope in the midst of uncertainty. The prophet assures that I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. Even if there are not promises in the horizon, he doesn't finish his book on a note of bitterness or sadness. He doesn't end in the fatalistic tone of existentialism. No, on the contrary. There are no logical explanations of Habakkuk's change, and I can say that it's nothing short of a miracle. There's no way to really understand this. It's just a miracle. It is what it is. My own journey of faith has led me to dark places. Places that I never thought that I would go. Some 10 years after beginning my ministry, I was again before a small coffin. This baby had been very dear to my heart. He had been born just weeks before my own child. And we had prayed that he was going to recover. We were certain that the Lord was going to make the miracle. But now he was in the arms of Alma, his mother. He was not breathing anymore. He was sealed for eternity. But instead of having faith, my wounds were opened again. And I thought that I have recovered from that until a couple of months ago. I also lost one who was like my own child whom I have seen grow with my own children, my own nephew. So uncertainty becomes real again. And we ask why. We ask why. We come full circle to the beginning where we were more than 20 years ago. How can I support someone in the midst of loss when I am struggling myself? How my heart has changed. I cannot explain. I guess it's nothing short of a miracle, as in the experience of Habakkuk. I just know that death didn't have the last word. There are words that you can listen, reads that you can, books that you can read, experts, whatever. I can only tell you that it's a miracle, and I needed time. I needed time with the Lord and His Word for that to happen. Faith is forged in the fire of circumstances that we don't understand, at high temperatures that melt down that ore around our own hearts, personal infernos that only those who have walked inside them can understand. I have felt myself melting away. I am weak. I am not one of those very strong preachers full of faith. No. And many times I need silence, and I need space, and I need time. Like Habakkuk in chapter 3, verse 19, I can also exclaim, God, the Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like deer's. He makes me tread on my high places. I'm not alone. In the most aggressive psalm, the Psalm of Asaph, Psalm 73, we can listen to similar words. But as for me, my feet had almost stumbled. My steps had nearly slipped. The voice echoes through millennia. If the Lord was able to transform us, if the Lord can return a glimpse of hope inside our troubled souls, He will be with you in times of pain, in times of uncertainty, even if